on to the next video. It's called I Am Tired of Women Whining, the female Andrew Tate, Pearl Davis on equal pay in sports. If you don't know, Pearl is a volleyball player and she plays quite professionally. I don't know the terms, but she does female sport. So let's see what she's got to say on this.
Both, I would imagine, identifying as provocateurs.
Of course.
Let's talk about this first of all. Pearl, I just find the whole personal pronoun thing honestly absurd. My personal pronouns on my Twitter biography are now hot, hotter, hottest. And frankly, if people don't call me those, then they have to be jailed. I go along with that. But I did that to highlight that when I do that and say that, people then accuse me of being ridiculous. I think the whole thing is ridiculous. Why do we need personal pronouns?
We don't need personal pronouns. I don't think it's kind to allow people to live in delusion.
Wait, are you
at the end of the day, we all know what a man and a woman is, okay? Just because you dress like a woman, talk like a woman, act like a woman, it does not make you a woman. And I am so tired of us allowing these people to let us live in delusion. It is delusional to think you are the opposite gender, and it is not kind.
I can't even go on. I love flying British Airways, right? My preferred airline, a wonderful airline. And there used to be a lovely posh voice saying, "Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Britain." And I used to feel soothing, particularly if I came from another country back to Britain. I felt immediately at ease. My captain was there, sounding like he was, from some wonderful Pathé News bulletin, and he referred to us as ladies and gentlemen. That's now been banned. They're not allowed to say ladies and gentlemen because there might be one person on the plane who says, whoa, hang on, I don't identify as a lady or a gentleman. Well, okay, fine, I don't care, but I do. So where's my right to be called a gentleman?
Here's
Grace?
No, however.
Also, the majority of people do. It's not just him. Like, the majority of people do identify as the sex they were assigned at birth. That's the majority. Why are you changing the way you speak and the way that, the, what's it called? The thing on the plane, the voice on the plane, what they're saying? Like, how can you change everything just to suit the small minority of people who may identify as something else if they choose to? And also, that's just their own. That's in their mind. There's nothing physical to prove that is the truth. So they're making things up in their mind. They're in a delusion, and then they expect everything to be changed according to what they feel they are. It doesn't make any sense, and they are literally the minority.
I feel like with this, I'm so bored of it all. I'm so bored of the fact that this...
There's that woman again. Oh, her hair's still thinning. She's clearly getting a bit too stressed out over things that don't really matter that much. So that kind of explains all the stress she's going through.
Is the one item that's constantly coming up over and over and over again. And you can completely see why, right? Conservative governments have destroyed our economy. We're in the middle of a massive climate crisis just after the hottest week ever. I've just come over from Europe. It's extremely hot. And instead of talking about that...
Oh my gosh, guys, the climate crisis. Oh, hot weather, extremely hot. I am tired. I'm going to use her own words. I am tired of hearing people say that hot weather is a climate crisis and they're scared of global warming because it's 40 degrees. Look, this is what these freaks believe. They believe that because it's 40 degrees, that means that the whole entire earth is going to combust into flames. And they literally use phrases like, we are burning up, the earth is burning up because it's 40 degrees outside for a few days in a year. The weakness of these people is just unbelievable. They are so mentally weak that a bit of hot weather scares them. And her views on what she's talking about in this interview completely correlate with her views on climate change. I can already tell you all of her views and everything that's in the mainstream headlines based on what she just said just now.
We spend hours and hours and hours talking about pronouns, talking about going into bathrooms, talking about, all of this stuff that just doesn't matter.
Yeah, but you see, it doesn't matter. Hang on. But hang on, it doesn't matter to you.
I'm so bored.
It doesn't matter to you,
kids.
but it does matter to women in sport. It does matter to women whose young daughters might be using these dressing rooms. It does matter to the victims of male rapists who see their attackers identify as women to get into women's prisons. Sorry, so when you say they don't matter, they really do matter.
Let's have those issues aired in the appropriate, spaces.
We are.
In sports, have that discussion amongst sports people. But literally, it's about priorities, isn't it? There is a certain number of time that we have on these shows to discuss the issues that matter.
You don't think women's... Hang on, before we come to our next...
I don't think women's sport matters as much as climate change. I think having a planet in which we can play sport matters more than the rules of sport.
Does women's equality matter?
I know that makes me probably absolutely
Does women's
insane.
Equality matter to you?
Well, I mean, yeah, of course, but actually, I mean, the whole point that I was going to make on this segment actually is that you cannot separate feminism from class issues. If you're just going around saying I don't know, I think the female CEO of a weapons manufacturer should be paid the same as a male CEO, and that's the hill I'm going to die on. I'm not fighting that fight with you because ultimately, what I care about are the struggles that ordinary women face every day.
Well, let's come to the main point of the segment, which is this issue of women's rights to be paid the same as men in sport. Now, the Australian women's football team have criticised the pay gap in the upcoming World Cup prize money. Let's take a look at what they said as a team.
736 footballers have the honour of representing their country on the world's biggest stage, this tournament.
Yet many are still denied the basic right to organise and collectively bargain.
Collective bargaining has allowed us to ensure we now get the same conditions as the Socceroos, with one exception. FIFA will still only offer women 1/4 as much prize money as men for the same achievement.
Well, OK, this is an interesting pearl because if you look at the revenue, for example, in 2019, FIFA generated £586 million in total revenue. The men's, for the 2019-22 cycle, 5.8 billion. Record revenue through the Men's World Cup. So the women's game has come on in leaps and bounds. The English Lionesses, fantastic win, sell-out crowds, they're making a lot more money. They're definitely way, way further now towards where the men are commercially than they were, but they're still a way off. And when you saw at Wimbledon, for example, the men's final was watched by 3 times as many people, and yet they were both free to air on the BBC. You could watch both if you wanted to. So there was 3 times as much interest in the men's game. They played 2 sets more per match than the women do, and yet the women get equal pay. I'm not quite sure why. I don't think it's a matter of equality. It's just a matter of fairness, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I won. I think all of the women should thank the men for funding our leagues because most of our leagues would not exist without the men, number one. Number two, when we have the same numbers, then we should get the same pay. I'm sorry, I play volleyball at the highest level, and it's when we make what the men make and get the crowds that the men draw, then we should get paid the same.
Austin, why is it?
That's so true. Probably going to get hate for this too, but I'm just going to say it. If women aren't getting as many views as men do for their games, then it's true, they shouldn't be paid the exact same. It's just like if you, for example, have a management of some kind for talents and the talents are releasing videos and one of them is getting I don't know, hundreds of thousands of views for each video and it's generating loads of money for you as a company, but then the other talent is getting a few hundred every week and it's not matching up at all and it's not really earning you any money at all, why are you going to pay them equally? That doesn't make any sense. So yeah, what he's saying is correct, what Pearl's saying is correct. I completely agree.
Why is it actually a fight for equality, Grace? I mean, why, if women in a particular sport, for example, turned out to generate more revenue, right, because they were more watchable, and in America, the women's football team is better than the men, and they do generate, even at school level, far more interest from girls than boys, for example, I don't see why equality should be the aim. Why shouldn't they get paid more than the men?
Well, look, I mean, there are all sorts of problems with the way that this market for labour, and it is basically a market for labour, works. I personally don't think that the top football players in the world should be paid as much as they do. I think it's ridiculous, the amount.
But that's market force.
Exactly. It's market forces.
Well, why shouldn't they get
that be the way that we decide, who generates what? Personally, I'm very much in favour of the fact that they came out there and said collective bargaining. Ultimately, the average worker in this country hasn't had a pay rise in over a decade. How is that going to change?
That's
going to change when they organise with one another.
I am so tired of women whining.
Mate,
it's
the only
like
person whining at the moment is you.
Literally, the men fund our leagues, and we will still whine that we don't get paid enough. And honestly, when athletes do shit like this, it makes all of us look bad. Because instead of being thankful for the league that we have, we go out and whine and complain about the pay.
I mean, as I said, I'm not whining. You sound like you're maybe doing a bit of whining. But like personally, I don't think we should be whining. I think people should be organising. If you want a pay increase, join a union, get out there and fight for it. That's my view.
Should the women footballers get the same as the men?
Yeah, I think it probably makes sense.
Even if they're not making anything like the revenue?
Ultimately, like, it's not going to change. It's not going to change unless they organise. That's actually true across every sector of the economy. If you want a pay rise, join a union and fight for one.
Let me ask you this, though. They have got unions.
Exactly.
Let me ask you this. On talent alone, for example, as a yardstick.
4 billion toothbrushes are thrown away every year. And every one you've ever owned.
The US women's football team were beaten by a group of under-15 boys from Texas, right? Who were very good, under-15 boys, but their under-15 boys team beat them, I think, about 8-9-0 or something. So why should women footballers, who are clearly nowhere near as good as their male counterparts, just technically, why should they get paid anything like as much money?
Well, I mean, you know, it sucks, doesn't it, that, like, as a woman, yeah, okay, you play volleyball. I'm a surfer. I absolutely love surfing. It's very hard for women to build up a body strength. This is something that I've learned very much the hard way. And so,
surfers, by the way, there is equal pay.
Yeah, there is. And actually, you know, it's one of those sports where...
Can a woman be as...
I'm sure it's equal all thanks to her. I'm sure she's the one who organised that.
Good as a man or not?
Well, it's different. It's a different sport, really. It's not, you know, it is the same sport, but it's very different watching a woman surf than it is watching a man surf because, you know, the average male body is different from the average woman, like, woman's body for all these...
But is there any actual technical reason why a woman can't do with a surfboard what a man can do?
Yeah, there's loads of reasons. Like, it is about the upper body strength. It's about, like, the way that the body is built.
So should women...
Oh, wow. She's just admitted that we're different. Men and women are different. I can't believe she's just admitted that. This is the first bit of sense she's spoken. This entire interview. Wow.
Surfers at the elite level get the same as men.
But, like, again, I think it just is different. Like, it's a different kind of game and people watch it.
Oh, you're shaking your head.
No, I just think when we start making the same amount of money as the men, then we should get paid the same as the men. I don't hear the men whining about OnlyFans models getting paid more than them. I don't hear the men whining about models getting paid more than them. Kendall Jenner is the highest paid supermodel. Where are the male supermodels? But whenever men dominate in an industry, women will just complain.
I mean, I don't know if that's true about OnlyFans, because there are a lot of men on OnlyFans as well. But I mean, look, the main point here...
You think they make the same?
I have no idea, but like, if maybe if you average...
Is she actually trying to disprove Pearl on that point? That women earn more money on OnlyFans? Are you kidding? Like, that is like... Out of all the things Pearl said, that is what she's trying to disprove and argue with. I think she just wants an argument because there is no way that men could earn more money on that app.
Out the number of men and women that are on that website. Anyway, look, the main point here, and the point that I came on here that I wanted to make was that the problem that we have in our economy at the moment is not that like the average football player isn't paid the same as the average man. It is probably an injustice, and I'm glad that they're organising and working together to fight for that. But ultimately, the problem we have in our economy is that nobody's getting paid enough money because inflation's eroded people's wages. Even before that, no one had a pay rise in a really long time. And the lesson from this is, as I've said, I'm going to say it again because it's an important lesson and no one knows about them anymore because they see them as a hangover from the 1970s. Join a union because otherwise your boss is going to walk away.
But there are unions for all these. It's the unions that are fighting for them.
Exactly.
But just as a general point, though, the principle you think that women should get paid the same, even if they're not as technically as good and not producing as much revenue.
It's a subjective judgment, isn't it, on whether or not they're like technically as good?
Well, not really.
No, it's not.
Because people watch men and women's sports for different reasons.
Well, let me give an example. An example would be the Olympics. If you made it non-gender specific, how many women would win medals?
Well, I mean...
None.
Okay.
I mean, maybe in equestrian and maybe in shooting, I think, are the two.
But again, I think...
Where there's no sense that the men might win.
You can say, like, oh, you know, this group is better than this group. But again, I think it's different.
Men are better than women at sports. Yes, let's not live in this delusion.
And in
I played 16 years.
Tell them, Pearl, tell them.
And in most cases,
National
Grace,
sports.
more people, men and women, want to watch men play sport.
Correct.
That's just a demonstrable fact. That may change. And
name
my point is,
5
if it changes, I don't see why equality should be the only ambition for the women. If it turns out that in some sport women get more viewers watching and therefore draw more revenue, I'm all for them getting more money than the men.
Can you name 5 WNBA players? 5 female soccer players?
I mean, I can't name any soccer players
That's
already.
crazy. I
What
wish we
is
had the support
WNBA?
from the
basketball?
feminists.
I don't
we
know.
would get equal pay if we would just get the support from the feminists.
Well, let me tell you.
Name 5.
Let me tell you.
Name 5 what? WNBA? I don't even know what the WNBA is.
We need our support.
You're asking the wrong person.
Yeah,
I
you
think.
really are.
But I do want to mention one thing, which is I had Dale Vince on the programme. He's been funding Just Stop Oil, and also he was very, very keen to show his feminist credentials because he owns a football team, and he had just hired the first female manager of a football team. But there was a slight problem, which he only made her the caretaker, and I saw a potential flaw here. So let's see what went down when I interviewed him. You didn't think by appointing the first female caretaker manager of a professional men's team you would get any attention?
She's the best candidate for the job at the club. This is what happens. You look at within the club, you find your best coach, and you say, take the team in an interim period while we do a proper recruitment process. That's all that's happening here. Why do you keep coming back to that?
Because she's
If you
only
look
a
at our record
caretaker.
of appointments.
She's only a caretaker.
Look at our record of appointments.
So if you believed in her that much, you'd have
Look
made
at
her
our record
manager. You've got all
of
the
appointments.
publicity, but actually
No,
she's
no,
not
no.
got the full
That's
job.
not how it works.
And I suspect what's
It's
going to
not-
happen is you're going
I
to
thought
go
you
and find.
understood football.
You're going to probably go and find a bloke to replace her, and then you're going to have to deal with that.
I thought you understood football, Piss.
I do. I'm an
thought
Arsenal
you
fan.
did.
Well, you might be.
You can just tell he's full of so much bullshit, and I think Piers just mentioned that he, I don't know, has some ties and connections and maybe some higher up powers in Just Stop Oil. I hate this organisation. I think they are full of shit. I think that they are literally plants planted there by the government and massive organisations like the World Economic Forum, for example. And I think that most people in it aren't aware that it's a plant organisation who are literally there to push agendas and to make us reach Agenda 2030 faster. But there are some people within the organisation, Just Stop Oil, who I believe fully know what they're doing, and they know that they are pushing this fear campaign and agenda of climate change in order to scare people into handing over their freedoms to the government. And when the time comes and then they create some massive climate event that's just happened, and oh gosh guys, there's 5 years left before the end of the world, we need to make a change now and we have a solution for you. Because in history it's always been massive scary scandal, and then everyone's fighting for their lives, and then okay, I've got a solution. There's like a strong leader that comes in and says, I've got a solution, I'm going to save you from all of this, and everyone's so desperate for a change and for a solution that they just hand over their freedoms and rights and go, listen, I'm handing it to you, take it, because they don't know what to do at that point. And I think that Just Stop Oil are scaring people into getting to that point where they're so desperate for a solution that they hand over their rights, and they are, they're succeeding, I would say, but I think people are waking up slowly, so I think we'll get to that great awakening before they are successful.
Be massively unsurprised to learn that 12 days later, Hannah Dinkley has been removed from her job as caretaker manager and replaced by a man. Yeah, Dale talked a good game on feminism and women's rights and boasted about it and got all the publicity, and in the end, he got rid of her after 12 days and put a bloke in charge. And you can
of course he works with Just Stop Oil, of course he does.
make your own view about Mr. Vince for doing that. Lovely to see you both. Thank you both very much indeed.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, this live show has come to an end. I'm tired after watching all of these deluded women chat absolute shit, and I'm losing brain cells from doing this job. I'm not gonna lie. losing brain cells, and losing hope and faith in humanity. But then there are other things that happen in the week that kind of bring that back for me. So yeah, Let me know what you think in the comments, guys. Did you enjoy this video? It was my first ever live video, and I probably will start doing these more regularly. So if you did enjoy them, or if you did enjoy this one, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more content and live videos such as this one. If you ring the notification bell, you'll get notifications when I'm going live and when videos are out, so you can see them. Thank you so much for staying on this live stream. There have been so many viewers this entire time, and thank you so much